I'm Joeita Gupta, host of The Pulse on AMI Audio. I want to take you beyond the headlines of the biggest stories impacting the disability community. As a member of the blind community, I'll bring a unique perspective to the conversation, alongside experts, advocates, and more. Together, we'll give you a more complete picture of the issues that are most important to you. Listen to The Pulse today. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or platform.
This is an AMI podcast.
I'm Dave Brown, and this is a podcast version of AMI's Morning Show, Now with Dave Brown. Catch the live broadcasts weekdays from 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern on AMI Audio and AMI TV. Welcome back. It's Now with Dave Brown on AMI. Let's turn our attention to the world of literature, specifically what's going on in the world of accessible reading material. Today we're going to be speaking with the Centre for Equitable Library Access Member Services Manager, Rachel Bro, who's filling in for Karen McKay. Hey, Rachel, great to chat with you. Thank you for making time to be with us today.
Thank you, Dave. I'm happy to be here.
So, Rachel, the heat wave pouring across most of the country will definitely tell us that it is indeed summertime. For many kids, there's only a precious few weeks left in their summer vacation, but there's still some neat summer reading programs to participate in. So what are some of the programs that are available and who's hosting them?
Definitely. So Canada has many summer reading programs that offer opportunities for kids to keep up their reading skills. So in the western part of the country, in BC, there is the BC Summer Reading Club, and it's offered through the BC Library Association and then delivered through public libraries. In most of the rest of Canada, there is the TD Summer Reading Club, and it's actually hosted through Toronto Public Library, Library Archives Canada, and CELA, as well as CNIB Foundation, help to organize that club. And then in New Brunswick, we have the New Brunswick Summer Reading Club, and it's offered by the New Brunswick Public Library Service.
So for these young readers, how can they engage in these programs?
Sure. So all of these programs have online registrations, or you can go into your public library. And libraries offer various programs, activities, and certainly offer the books that are part of these reading lists. And CELA is really pleased to be able to offer those titles as well in accessible formats. And for the TD Summer Reading Club, we actually work with the CNIB Foundation to provide the notebooks in accessible formats. So it's a really exciting program.
Oh, right on. Yeah, speaking of CELA's relationship, does CELA carry some of the books that are going to be featured in these clubs?
Absolutely. So we have, if you combine all the titles in total, we have 300 titles from the 3 reading clubs. So we're really excited about that. And they cover different age ranges. And of course, we offer different formats as well.
You know, reading's not just for the kids. We want adults to be engaged in literature as well. So we always like to end the segment and end the week with some possible reading material heading into the weekend. And this week, you wanted to go with the theme of romance and highlight some novels written by Canadian authors. And you wanted to begin with The Forgotten Daughter by Joanna Goodman.
Sure. So The Forgotten Daughter is a story really of opposites attract. So the character Veronique is a devoted Quebec separatist. And the story takes place in about the 1980s and then also in the 90s. But Veronique's dad was actually involved in a kidnapping and planned murder of a Quebec politician in 1970. So Veronique, though, falls for James, who is a French Canadian who opposes Quebec separatism. So you can already see the conflict there. And so it brings together the themes of love, familial bonds, but it also brings in the story of James's sister, Elodie, who is suffering from the trauma of being one of the Duplessis orphans. And if you don't know what that is, one of the Duplessis orphans were orphans in the 1950s who suffered trauma because they were misdiagnosed as being mentally ill. So that covers a dark part of Quebec's history, unfortunately. But this is a great book. I picked it because I also enjoyed Joanna Goodman's first book, The Home for Unwanted Girls, which is also set in Quebec. So if you like, again, that opposites attract type of story, this is a good one for you.
It sounds like a very interesting tension that lies at the heart of those books. Very, very interesting. You've got another one here called Ties That Tether by Jane Igaro.
Yes. So this is an interesting book. It's actually the first book by Nigerian author Jane Igaro. And it starts off with the character Azere, who is 12 years old. And she promises her dying father that she would marry a Nigerian man and preserve her culture. Her mom and her moved to Canada, and her mom's tried to set her up with a different Nigerian men. It doesn't really work out. And so one night she's upset. She goes to a bar, obviously, when she's much older, and has a one-night stand with a white man named Raphael. Well, their relationship does carry on. And so Azare feels very torn. Does she follow her father's wishes, or does she go with Raphael, who really makes her happy? One thing I wanted to point out about this book is that the author is really getting a lot of notoriety because she's actually featured on Mary Claire's 2020 Books You Should Read list.
Oh, wow. Wow. And Rachel, I do want to make mention here that as I do butcher these authors' names, yes, please do correct me. We have a policy here on Now with Dave Brown. You must correct the host when he botches names, as I will intend to do here over these next two books as well. So the next one is Satellite Love by Genki Ferguson.
Yes. So this one is really interesting and unique, which is why I picked it. So it's about Anna, who is 16 years old, and she lives in southern Japan. And unfortunately, Anna is very, very lonely. She's an outcast at school, and she must take care of herself and her grandfather, who's gradually getting more and more senile. One night, Anna is outside looking up at the stars, and she sees a light, a brighter light than most stars, and it turns out to be a satellite, a low Earth orbit satellite, which becomes known as Leo. And this satellite returns her gaze. So this is actually a story, a love story between Anna and this machine, essentially. And if you listen to the audio recording that we have in Sela's collection, there are two voices, a male voice for Leo. And also I wanted to let readers know that as part of the recording, there are beeps and blips, sort of, again, mechanical sounds that are part of the story. So don't let, I just want readers to know that it's not a problem with the book or your player or the app. It's actually part of the book. But I just wanted to say that this story is very different, but it's also deeply moving. It really is a meditation on love and in yearning for a connection.
Rachel, that is so cool. I love to see audiobooks that are now thinking about those small production elements that make a huge difference in regard to the experience of listening or reading the book.
Definitely. Yeah, it really enhances the story. And all of the narrators, by the way, for these books are have very professional voices. So it's a real pleasure to listen to these books.
Excellent. Now, there's one more here, and this one you are definitely going to have to help me with the pronunciation after I butcher it. This one, The last one you want to identify is Hannah Khan Carries On by Uzma Jalaluddin.
Very close. So Uzma Jalaluddin, and I went on her website, and she actually gives you a phonetical pronunciation, so it helps enormously. So this book, Hannah Khan Carries On, is getting a lot of press. In fact, when I was watching the news this morning, they mentioned this book because it's going to become a movie. So let me tell you more about it. So the book is a romantic comedy, and it's set in two competing halal restaurants. So the basis of the story is very similar to You've Got Mail, which was about rivaling bookstores. So Hannah is a waitress at Three Sisters Birani Poutine, which is the only halal restaurant in her area. The restaurant's not doing very well financially, and so it's really bad news when a more upscale restaurant moves in and threatens their sales, but it also introduces the character Aiden, who Hannah becomes attracted to. So again, that's sort of opposites attract, rivals theme that comes into it. But this book is so much more because it does involve a family secret. I won't say what it is. I'll keep your
no spoilers. No
posted.
spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. Community conflict conflicts too. I mean, this is a restaurant run by a Muslim family, and so there's some issues within the community there. But also Hannah's dreams are part of this too. She actually wants to be a radio host. So anyway, as many romantic comedies do, things work out in the end. It is a humorous romantic comedy. But not only is it becoming a movie, but it was actually featured on the Today's Show. And so this author's really moving ahead. And she is busy. She also writes for the Toronto Star on culture and parenting. But so this book, Hannah carries on, as well as her first book, Aisha at Last, are both getting a lot of press. If you like romantic comedies, I strongly encourage you to read it.
Rachel, thank you so much for filling in for Karen today. We're so appreciative. Thank you for these excellent recommendations. Have an awesome weekend and a great end to the summer. You've been listening to Now with Dave Brown. Hit the subscribe button on any podcast platform and leave us a rating and a review.
This was an AMI podcast. For more accessible media, visit ami.ca.